It started with her shouting at me across the kitchen. "Stop asking about my plans," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut through the quiet hum of the fridge. She was packing a small overnight bag, the kind she used for girls' trips. Her movements were quick, almost defensive. I stood there, hands resting on the counter, watching her toss in clothes like she was running from something. "I'm just asking where you're going," I said. "You act like that's a crime." She turned, eyes narrowed. "You don't need to know everything I do, Jake." That stung more than I wanted to admit. "I'm your husband," I said quietly. "Exactly," she snapped, zipping her bag shut. "Not my warden." The sound of that zipper closing felt like a door slamming between us. She grabbed her keys, gave me a look that was more exhaustion than anger, and walked out without saying goodbye. That was the moment something broke in me. 4 months I'd been chasing her shadow. Late nights at work, vague explanations, new friends I'd never met. Every time I asked, she said I was too controlling, that I needed to trust her. And I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But trust dies slowly, and suspicion fills its grave. So I stopped asking. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Her texts were short, emotionless. "I'll be back Monday." No heart. No warmth. Just words. I tried not to read into it, but my mind kept spinning, feeding me images I didn't want to see. Her laughing with someone else, her phone lighting up with names she wouldn't explain. By Saturday, something inside me flipped. If she could disappear for a weekend without explanation, why couldn't I? That's how Miami happened. I booked a flight, packed a bag, and told no one. I wanted to feel free again, or maybe I just wanted to see if she'd notice my absence the way I noticed hers. The plane touched down to humid air and neon lights. Miami at night was electric. Music pulsing from beach bars, laughter spilling onto the streets, the scent of salt and rum mixing in the air. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was waiting for someone to explain themselves. At the hotel, I ordered a drink and sat by the pool, letting the sound of waves drown out my thoughts. My phone buzzed around midnight. It was her. "Where are you?" I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "Out." A minute later. "Out where?" "Miami." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. "What the hell are you doing there?" I smirked bitterly. "You told me to stop asking about your plans. I figured I'd make some of my own." No reply. The next morning she called. I let it ring. Then again. And again. Finally I answered on the 4th try. "What's going on, Jake?" she demanded. "You just take off and don't tell me." I almost laughed at the hypocrisy. "Like you told me last weekend." "That's different," she snapped. "Is it?" There was a pause. Then her voice dropped. "You're being childish." "Maybe," I said. "But at least I'm not hiding anything." She hung up. For the rest of the day, I tried to enjoy myself. I walked along the beach, had lunch at a small cafe, talked to strangers who didn't know my story. But beneath the calm surface, guilt began to creep in. I wasn't cheating. I wasn't lying. But the satisfaction I felt, the twisted pleasure of reversing the roles, made me realize how toxic we'd become. That night I got a text. "We need to talk. I'm at your mother's." That stopped me cold. My mother's house was 2 states away. She was using it as a guilt trip. I didn't reply. Instead, I went down to the bar, ordered another drink, and stared at my reflection in the mirror behind the counter. My eyes looked tired, older. There was no victory in this. The next morning I flew home. When I walked in, she was waiting. Still in her travel clothes. Jeans, white t-shirt, sunglasses perched on her head. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. "Did you have fun?" she asked, her tone dripping with restrained fury. "Yeah," I said. "It was nice not being treated like a burden." Her jaw tightened. "You think this is a game?" "No," I said. "But I think we stopped being a team a long time ago." She stared at me for a long moment, then crossed her arms. "You went to Miami alone. Why? Is that hard to believe?" Her eyes flickered just for a second. You expect me to believe you didn't go with someone? I felt a bitter laugh escape me. You're accusing me now. I'm not accusing, she said, voice shaking. I'm just asking. The irony was too sharp to ignore. Funny. You told me to stop asking questions. Didn't think you'd lose your mind when I finally listened. She flinched. Then quietly. Who was she? There wasn't anyone, I said truthfully. But it's interesting how fast your guilt showed up. Her face went pale. What's that supposed to mean? You tell me. Silence fell between us, thick and suffocating. Her hand trembled as she reached for her phone. I caught a glimpse of the name on her lock screen before she turned it over. Brian. I didn't need to ask. The way her eyes darted, the way her breath hitched. It was enough. Brian, I said softly. That's where you were last weekend, wasn't it? Her voice cracked. It's not what you think. I laughed, cold, hollow. I think it's exactly what I think. She sank onto the couch, face buried in her hands. It was one time. I didn't mean for it to happen. I stood there, staring at the woman I used to trust with everything. You didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. And I was the fool who kept asking where you were. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I was lost, Jake. I didn't know how to fix us. Then why didn't you try? She looked up at me, her eyes red. I thought you stopped caring. I didn't stop caring, I said quietly. I stopped begging. We sat in silence after that. The truth hung in the air like smoke, choking everything around it. I could have yelled, could have thrown her out, but instead I just walked upstairs. From the landing, I looked down at her one last time. She was still sitting there, head in her hands, the weight of what she'd done settling on her shoulders. In that moment, I realized something painful and clear. Trust doesn't shatter in one night. It erodes slowly, through silence, through avoidance, through every unanswered question. And when it's gone, there's nothing left to save. By the time I packed my bag again, this time for good, she finally looked up. Where are you going? She whispered. I met her eyes. Miami. This time she didn't ask who I'd be with.